What's up, Ignite? It is Trent. I am so blessed to be able to lead worship for you guys. I know this season looks different than any of us ever thought it would, but I believe that the Lord is still moving, that God is still on the throne, and that He still has a plan, and that He will redeem all the things that we think have gone wrong in this season. He will work it out for good. So I pray that we would just lean in and that this worship would bless us wherever you're at, watching this tonight at home with family. I pray that we would all just draw near to the Lord. So I love you, and let's worship God. As I reflect, I find perspective there in the best and worst days of this life. You were always on my side. Come on, sing that out. You're in the pain, you're in the promise, and on the days the furnace finds my faith, you're the fourth within the flames. Sing, I don't need to know. I don't need to know what the future says, 'cause if the past could talk, it would tell me this: my God isn't finished yet. If He did it before, He can do it again. So I'll trust Him with what comes next. For the God I know is known for faithfulness. Whoa, whoa. Oh, yeah, my hindsight says I can trust Him with what's next. Whoa, for the God I know is known for faithfulness. There's more ahead than what's behind me, 'cause through the highs and lows and in between, God, you go ahead of me. Where you call me, and where you call me, I will follow. And if the water falls beneath my feet, then you'll pull me from the deep. I don't need to know what the future says, 'cause if the past could talk, it would tell me this: my God isn't finished yet. If He did it before, He can do it again. So I'll trust Him with what comes next. For the God I know is known for faithfulness. Oh, yeah, my hindsight says I can trust Him with what's next. For the God I know is known for faithfulness. As we worship, I invite you to turn your perspective on God. Think about things the way that He thinks about them. His ways are higher than ours. His perception is higher than ours. And so let's trust Him in this season. Come on. Peace like a river wash over me. Immerse me in waters deep as the sea. Hide me in love, your healing embrace. Peace like a river wash over me as I worship your majesty. I worship your holy name. Jesus, my everything. All that I am is yours. Holy Spirit, rain down on me. Break open the heavens and drench the unseen. Pour out your presence as I pour out your praise. Oh, come, Holy Spirit, Lord, have your way as I worship your majesty. I worship your holy name. Jesus, my everything. All that I am is yours. I worship your majesty. I worship your holy name. Jesus, my everything. All that I am is yours. Come on, would you sing Open the Heavens? Open the heavens, fling wide the gates, flood every heart with mercy. Pour out your presence, inhabit our praise as we cry, holy, holy. Open the heavens, fling wide the gates, flood every heart with mercy. Flood every praise, inhabit our praise as we cry, holy, holy. Open the heavens, fling wide the gates, flood every heart with mercy. Pour out your presence, inhabit our praise as we cry, holy, holy. Oh, we cry, holy, holy. Oh, I worship your majesty. I worship your holy name. Jesus, my everything. Yeah, all that I am is yours. I worship your majesty. I worship your holy name. Jesus, my everything. All that I am is yours. Lord, send revival. Lord, send it now. Move of your spirit, heaven break out. Come now in power, cover this land like you've done it before. Would you do it again? Lord, send revival. Lord, send it now. A move of your spirit, heaven break out. Come now in power, cover this land like you've done it before. Would you do it again? In this season, that is the hope we must rely on. That the Lord will bring something good out of this. And revival may look different than we wanted it to, but we believe we need to stand firm in this time that the Lord will work this out to lead people to Him. Who am I that the highest King would welcome me? I was lost, but He brought me in. Oh, His love for me. Oh, His love for me. Whom the a child of God. Yes, I am. Free at last. Free at last, he has ransomed. His grace runs deep. While I was a slave to sin, Jesus died for me. Yes, he died for me. Oh, the sun sets free. Oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. My Father's in my Father's house. There's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. I'm chosen. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. Yes, I am who you say I am. Who the sun sets free. Oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. Sing, I am chosen. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. I'm chosen. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. Yes, I am who you say I am. Oh, I am who you say I am. Oh, the sun sets free. Oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. Declare that tonight. Come on. In my Father's house. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God. Yes, I am. Well, Ignite, wherever you're at, I want you to know that the Lord is near to you. That while your circumstances may seem against you, while the world may not be going the way that you want it to, school may be shut down, and we may not understand why things are happening this way, but I want you to know that God is for you. He is working things for you. So in this season, trust Him, draw near to Him, rest in Him, let Him love you. You are His son, you are His daughter. He has a plan for your life. Don't lose hold of that. I love you. I pray that we would all just draw near to the Lord in this time and come out on the other side of this situation closer to Him. Love you guys. Have a good night.
Should be good. Let me What's up, Ignite? My name is Troy Lanning. I'm the discipleship coordinator here at Ignite. I hope that you have all been doing well during these crazy times. I know that there are lots of people that are struggling during this time, but I think if we really are being honest with ourselves, I think that there are some great things that are coming out of this time as well. I know for us here at Ignite, we believe that we are now better equipped more than ever with our abilities to reach out to you guys each and every week. I think that's really just because of what's been going on. So that's just the way our God works. He takes what the enemy meant for evil and he turns it for good. So go ahead and comment below something good that you have either changed or discovered about yourself during this time, so we can join with you in praising our King for all that he is doing through his people during this time. All right, guys, I think that God has given me a really great message for you guys tonight, so let's just jump straight into it. So last week, Pastor Christian talked about Romans 8, 1 through 4. He went into the context right before it in chapter 7, and he was talking about how Paul was so preoccupied with the law. Paul was focusing on verses 18 through 20. In verse 18, he said, "For I know that nothing good is living in me, that is, in my flesh, for the desire to do what is good is with me, but there is no ability to do it. For I do not do the good that I want to do, but I practice the evil that I do not want to do. Now if I do what I do not want, I am no longer the one doing it, but it is the sin that lives in me." So I think that those verses are not only very hard to read. I feel like Paul gave us the first "she sails seashells by the seashore," but I also believe that they are vital to our understanding as Christians. There is nothing good that dwells within my flesh. My desire to do what is right comes from the Spirit and the Spirit alone. But my ability to carry that out, I do not have, right? We keep doing evil things even when we don't want to do them, and that is the reason for the cross. God knew that we would fail and fail again, and if it were up to us, no one would be able to be in relationship with him. That's the whole point in the first place, right? That is why Jesus died for us. That is why God gifted us with the Spirit who lives in us to help guide us through life. Just as much as Paul was preoccupied with the law in chapter 7, he's also preoccupied with the Spirit in chapter 8. The first 4 verses, which we went over last week, was talking about the freedom of the Spirit. That through Jesus we have been liberated from the law and sin. It is through that freedom that our sin does not send us to hell. Because I don't know if you're aware of this, but from the second that we sin, we're going to hell. When my 2-year-old son takes a toy away from my little baby Jet, I can see into his heart, and it is filled with this black, gross, crawling substance that is trying to take over his whole body. I picture it like, you know, that horrible movie Spider-Man 3 with Tobey Maguire, Topher Grace as Venom. If you haven't seen it, you're lucky, but if you have, that's what I'm picturing. I'm picturing what happens to Venom. And the sad reality is that my son has already bought his ticket to hell. But he doesn't have to go. It is only because of Jesus Christ, the perfect life he lived, and what he did for us on the cross that our sins are paid for. This means that we no longer have to live under the law, that we no longer have to look to the law to be saved. However, our freedom from the law does not mean that we get to disobey it. God wants us to obey the law, so much so, in fact, that he sent his Son to die for us and his Spirit to live in us in order to let us obey the law without death. So let's just get straight into the verses for tonight, which is Romans 8, 5 through 8. Romans 8, 5 through 8. "For those who live according to the flesh think about the things of the flesh, but those who live according to the Spirit about the things of the Spirit. For the mind set on the flesh is death, but the mind set of the Spirit is life and peace. For the mind set of the flesh is hostile to God, because it does not submit itself to God's law, for it is unable to do so. Those who are in the flesh cannot please God." If we look straight at verse 5, it says, "For those who live according to the flesh have their mind set on the things of the flesh. But those who live according to the Spirit have their mind set on the things of the Spirit. So basically what Paul is saying here is he's saying that obedience to the law is only possible if we are walking with the Spirit, if we are keeping in step with the Spirit. The idea between the Spirit and the flesh is critical here. When talking about flesh, Paul isn't talking about this 7 layers of epidermis that covers our skeleton, right? He's talking about the whole of our humanness. As a human race, we are corrupt, we are unredeemed, we are fallen, egocentric sinners who will choose the wrong way all the time. If you don't believe me, all you got to do is look at the top 20 songs right now. Look and see how many of them have that explicit sign in the corner. Or even go onto Netflix and look at the top 10 shows in the nation. How many of those would you feel comfortable watching with your parents? When Paul talks about the Spirit, he isn't talking about our mood or being spiritual. He's talking about the Holy Spirit, who not only raises us from death to life, but lives inside the people of God. So we have a choice to make. Are we going to live our life walking according to sinful nature of flesh, listening to what the world is telling us is important? Or are we going to live our lives keeping in step with the Spirit? Who you are determines your mindset. It isn't the other way around. If you are sick and tired of thinking the way that you do, or sinning over and over again in the ways that you do not want to be sinning, it's time to stop. Stop and look at what you are consuming. If you can't stop crossing the line sexually with your boyfriend or girlfriend, look at what shows you watch. Look at what music you listen to. Look at what that's telling you to do. Let us not be naive. Everything has a motive. Every part of our culture is framed to make us think a certain way. If you are tired of watching porn, if you are tired of lying to your loved ones, if you are tired of gossiping about others in your school, and you don't know how to stop doing these things, I have great news for you. There is a way to change your mindset. There is a way to leave all that behind. The fact that you want to change in the first place already shows that you're in the right spot. Now that we just have to capitalize on this opportunity. There's a battle going on between the Spirit and your flesh. And I got news for you. The Spirit is way more powerful. The Spirit raises people from death to life. So what side do you want to be on? Let's go ahead and take a look at verse 6, right? In verse 6 it said, now the mindset of the flesh is death, but the mindset of the Spirit is life and peace. So here we go. I feel like this is where it gets real because our mindset has consequences. It has real consequences. If our mindset is consumed with the world, we will be eternally dead. A mindset of the flesh alienates us from our Creator and makes a relationship with Him impossible. If we are focused on ourselves and our selfish desires, if we are constantly letting our minds be engulfed with the sin that we struggle with, we're not really giving any room for God up there. God is still waiting for us to give Him more space in our minds, but we have to let Him in. Think about a time when you let anger take control of you. If you have ever been in an argument and started to say things that you didn't mean, only having to go back afterwards and to apologize to the person, that is what is happening to us when we let our flesh take control. We leave no room for God to influence our decisions. On the other hand, having a Spirit-filled mindset allows us to receive life and peace. We are to be made alive with God, start thirsting for everything that makes God happy, and we will get peace. Peace that sounds pretty good right about now, if you ask me. Paul talks about that peace being with our God, talks about that peace being with our neighbors, allowing us to live in harmony while we're still here on earth. Verse 7 starts talking about the mindset of the flesh and it's hostile to God because it doesn't submit to God's law. It actually says it's unable to. A mindset that is on the flesh is against God at all angles. It is against every part of Him and literally cannot submit to the law. If you are having trouble following God, it may not be your heart, it may be your mindset. You have to want to follow God. but you're not really giving yourself a chance. These verses are telling us that we cannot submit to God's law and have a mind that is set on the flesh. It doesn't say here that it will be very hard to follow God. It says, indeed, you cannot follow him. Not only can you not follow him, but in the next verse it says that you will not please and cannot please him. Verse 8 says, those who are in the flesh cannot please God. You know, when I was growing up, I could probably count on one hand the amount of times that I missed church. I mean, my dad was the worship leader. My whole family was really involved in it. And it was just a fact. We knew on Sunday we were going to church. I always called myself a Christian. I've always considered myself a Christian. But outside of Sunday, if you looked at my actions when I was going to school, if you looked at the words that I was using when I was talking with my friends, you would know that my mindset was on the world. It made it impossible for me to truly follow God's laws. And I knew the Bible. I knew the right answers. I knew what I should be doing. And if I asked myself if I wanted to obey my parents and I wanted to obey God, I would honestly answer yes. Because I so deeply wanted to follow God. My heart has always been in the right place, but my mindset was on my flesh and not on the Spirit. This is something that we will always struggle with because we are still flesh. But the more we study him, the more we draw near to him, the more our minds will be molded like his. And that is when we can live by the law. That is when we will actually change who we are because, as we learned earlier, who you are determines our mindset. So where do we go from here, right? We just learned all this stuff. Where do we go from here? Well, there are two categories of people that you can fall into, okay? The flesh category and a spirit category. Those two categories have two different mindsets, that of the flesh, that of the spirit. Those mindsets have two different patterns of living, according to the flesh and according to the spirit. The spirit allows you to follow God's law and results in two spiritual states that will be with us for eternity, right? Whatever we choose, that of death and that of life and peace. What we set our minds on has great impact on our actions and our eternity. So please, guys, watch what you're putting in your minds. Guard the music that you listen to and the Netflix that you watch. Read the Bible every day and open up the lines of communication with God that have been turned off. Hey guys, I love being here with you tonight. We are about to jump into some Zoom groups. So just to dig a little bit deeper into this message, I encourage all of you to join up and talk with your friends about what we are learning tonight. Some of you have been taking different things from the message, and it always helps if you can talk through those things that you have learned with your friends and get on the right track. Can't wait to see you guys. The Zoom ID is 804-283-7933. That's 804-283-7933. And that's the word for the week. So I hope that y'all been blessed by it, and I know I have been, and can't wait to see you guys again. All right, love you guys.